Hi everybody, I'm Beebs Kelley. Welcome back to another video. Today we are going to break down the top 5 weirdest things that happened with Harry and Meghan's Colombia trip, aka publicized vacation. Harry and Meghan have taken this hugger identity to a whole new level to where it is starting to get weird. That's right, their hugging obsession is one of the top 5 weirdest things that happened in Colombia. They are clinging to this concept that being perceived as huggers to the public at large, to the media, will be some sort of life raft to their popularity. Like, if they could only reach some absurd quota of pictures published of them hugging people, that will be able to save their image. It was already inappropriate and transparent and ingenuine, but now it's increasingly pathetic and absurd. Case in point, on this Colombia trip, Meghan Markle's obsessive hugging of the vice president. Just looking at day 1 alone, the VP and the Sussexes attended 3 public-facing events together that day, and the Meg issued this woman hugs repeatedly at each occasion at the start and finish. Why? You've already invaded her bubble once when you greeted her. Why are you doing it repeatedly throughout the day? That's super weird. It's not just that it's not normal to do that. It's not socially acceptable to continue to hug someone you just met repeatedly over the course of a single day. It's even more mind-blowing in this particular setting, which is more professional in tone. No matter which way you slice it, this is the vice president of a country. Even though this is a publicity stunt for all involved, that inherently still calls for a more professional tone, just given this woman's position. Next up, so many outfits, so few days. We saw at minimum 11 different outfits across 4 days. The first and second day each saw 3 separate outfit changes for the Meg and at least 2 for Harold. And the second half of the trip had a couple of less publicized events, but we saw at least 2 to 3 outfits on the second half of the trip as well per day from Meghan. And this has come across as weird for a couple of different reasons. Firstly, because it seems really extreme to have that many outfit changes within a single day. It definitely lends itself or shifts the optics towards photo op and away from whatever work it was that they were there to do. But also because of the disparity that it highlights. Using a poverty-stricken country and children in this way to take all these pictures all of the time has upset a great deal of people. It's further accentuated by the fact that she wore over 90,000 pounds or over $100,000 US in clothing and jewelry on this trip. It not only looked out of place, it came across as tone deaf. So why then did she do it? Well, a big reason why people in this similar positions, even the royals have done this from time to time, but in particular in this scenario, we're talking about Meghan and Harry, the reason why they will change outfits throughout the day or across a couple of different engagements is to make it look like they're there for longer than they are. Because then when you look back at pictures from this trip and you see a dozen or more different outfits, you think, gee whiz, they were there for a long time. Was this a 2-week-long trip? How long was this trip? Another piece to it is that it helps to differentiate the different events to a given day, give each of them their own, identity, so to speak, when it comes to the press relations. And as I said, this has been done with the royal family before, just not quite as extreme. It's much more practical with them. For instance, on a royal tour, it's common to see them wear one thing during the day and change into something different for a reception at night. That makes sense. Or, for example, to change from an outdoorsy or athletic occasion back into a dress. But they don't always change for every single individual event just because it's a different event. There's usually a reason behind it that makes it a little bit more practical and understandable. But not Meghan Markle. Oh, no. She's just changing because there's a new event to do or a new place to go. She's going to have a wardrobe change every single time. There's no real logical reason behind it. On the other hand, for Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, quite frankly, there were a few times where it was caught on camera that they were a little sweaty. Totally normal. That happens in hot climates, especially if you're not used to the weather. You're gonna sweat more. So perhaps some of it did have to do with hygiene, to be completely fair. Changing so that you're in something fresh, doesn't have any sweat stains, things like that, is totally acceptable to do. So perhaps the outfit changes, giving benefit of the doubt, were built into the schedule to prevent sweaty pictures. But there's more to this that ended up reflecting badly on the Sussexes when you look a little deeper into what that really meant for the day. Across all 4 days, when they were going to these events, it was obvious that a massive part of this was publicity. They're gathering pictures and video, probably for Archewell, possibly for Netflix, who cares what it's for. They brought along their own personal photographers and were clearly aiming for exclusively positive press. And so the public or the consumers of these headlines and these articles that came out may reasonably assume that the Sussexes spent adequate time at each of these individual events. When you really look at their day and you take into consideration these outfit changes, it paints a different picture. These occasions, these events, each little stop was very brief. To get all the way ready and have all this excessive amounts of security organized to travel from their hotel to an event takes a great deal of time. Then maybe they spend an hour or two at most at whatever location they're at. Then they travel back to the hotel. That's a whole nother operation and spend time getting changed and repeat. There is only so much time in a day. There's no possible way that they were spending more than an hour or two at each of these stops. When you spend just as much time at your hotel and getting ready and changing outfits as you do actually engaging with the events or at the events, the rest is all transportation time. You really aren't accomplishing much, which leads me to number 3 on this list of weird. Nothing, it would seem, was actually done. They didn't deliver value, they didn't create change, they didn't really have meaningful conversations that we haven't heard already before. They're not assessing any issues adequately in that brief of time at each of these locations, but they did get lots and lots of pictures. This ultimately is not a good look for Meghan and Harry here, at least not in terms of this spin that they're trying to run with. They want to make it look like they are doing lots of really important stuff, that they're helping to create change, having important discussions about problems, and being world leaders. That's their angle anyway. When in reality, though, as evidenced by their schedule and their approach to all of this, their priority is actually the publicity, the pictures. This is a PR vacation, and their focus was on the photo opportunities. I posted a video earlier this week explaining just how this trip came to be and the hoops that they jumped through to make it happen. If you haven't seen it, go back and give it a watch. I'll link it for you here and in the description box, because otherwise this part of the video won't make sense. But as we discussed in that video, they have to have some sort of a reason for this trip to be acceptable, to be allowed, essentially. And they went to all this effort leading up to it make sense. And because their original plan fell through, they needed to put together an emergency panel, some sort of a discussion, because Meghan firmly believes that it's an important part to their image, to their brand, and it also allows them to bill even more business expenses to both Archewell and Colombia. It allows them to look and feel important, and her favorite accessory is there, microphones. It's more opportunities to say nothing with lots and lots of words, and point at problems, and tell dish soap stories. Share platitudes about wanting to protect kids online while employing 0 experts to help actually accomplish that.
For me, the most important place that I sit in the world right now is as a mother. So I look at it through the lens of what our children are going to adopt as they get older, and how we can keep them safe, because I do believe all of us agree, despite whatever disparities there are throughout the world, no one contests the fact that we want to keep our children safe. So that has been a fundamental and incredibly important aspect of how I've approached our philanthropic work.
This panel is a good example of the trip in general. It was put together as part of this trip as a vanity element and on paper helping to justify the whole thing, which is why, as you can see in these pictures, it's literally empty in this auditorium. No one showed up. Only a handful of people are there, and the rumor is most of these people actually are employed in some way, shape, or form. They work for one party or the other, or for the venue. Not only do the people of Bogota not actually give a hoot about Harry and Meghan, just like the rest of the world, but this also demonstrates this last-minute farce that this panel is, and highlights the fact that nothing was actually done here. There's no new news, no new ideas, no nothing coming out of this panel. They just said the same stuff they say every time they're on a panel. Had this event been planned ahead of time or publicized properly, people would have shown up probably. They had other interesting people there, and the VP alone you'd think could have filled the auditorium, but instead it's less than half full. Had it actually been a real legitimate panel, it would not have been this empty. But it's not, and this just proves that Harry and Meghan are not actually part of the real conversations taking place about online safety. It's like the real organizations and experts and academics are talking about this issue and working to address it. And they are solutions-based. And Harry and Meghan are over here at the kids' table just complaining about it. They are removed from the issue because they're not approaching it strategically or like adults or like people who want to create change. Not really trying, or at least they're not integrating into the discussion that has already started long before they came along to try to join it. You'll recognize this behavior as a pattern in toxic people that you know or people higher in narcissism. Even if a movement or something, an organization, a group, whatever it is, has already begun, a toxic person or a self-centered person or a person high in narcissism, they will come in and try to make it their own and take charge of the whole thing and start making changes and saying this is how it needs to be and trying to be the boss of it all. But it's redundant at that point, and the person trying to do their own version of it, in this case the Sussexes, are usually bad at it. They lack the knowledge and skills needed, and they don't put the work in that's required for it. Like we've seen before with them, they're wanting to take credit for things that they haven't actually done. They'll donate a small fraction and claim that the initiative was all their own. Or they'll elbow in on something that's already established or join a single conversation but publicize it like they've put the entire thing on. And that's what they're doing with this internet safety stuff. And yes, they have a lot of motives surrounding it and it benefits them greatly. But they are also redundant and pushed to the side in the realm of this initiative because it's already doing its own thing. There's already well-respected organizations who have taken on this concept of trying to find ways to put in place online safeguards in respect to children because that is what matters most, not adults getting upset about criticisms that they've received online. It's vulnerable children who might get themselves into dangerous situations or put far too much weight on online interactions. It's the children who people really care about seeing progress made in terms of creating a safer space, not the adults. And Harry and Meghan always turn it back onto themselves, which is yet another reason why they're being excluded from this conversation. The consensus is, anyway, it's weird that they staged this entire trip under the pretense that it was to discuss these things when all they did was repeat the same talking points they do every single time. Fifth thing on the list of weird is that the messaging didn't align with their actions, which made the whole purpose behind the trip seem extra weird. This messaging was supposed to be the online safety stuff, which they haven't even nailed down well because we don't even know how to phrase it in terms of what the Sussexes are trying to support. They say it different every time. But yet the only thing attributed to it was those few comments at this faux panel that they put on that only like 12 people showed up to. So this highlights the problem. When a PR approach is so far away from what actually happened, it becomes very transparent that this trip was completely unnecessary. What did you think was the weirdest part of this Colombia trip? Leave it in the comments now, and it is time for question of the day. The top comment on day one's fashion edition, which will be linked for you here and in the description box, was about the stains on this tragic, just absolute crime of an outfit. Everybody wants to know why I didn't mention these stains, and it is because we don't actually know for sure, 100%, if they were sweat stains or, for example, if she took a sip of water and condensation dripped onto the clothing. Either way, it was tragic. Whether it was a spill or sweat stains, it still looks awful. I know the consensus is that it's sweat stains, and I'm not saying I don't agree with that. It's just there's no way to know for sure whether it was sweat or condensation from a glass or drip of water or something like that. But it ultimately just highlights one big fail on Meghan Markle's part. She doesn't dress strategically. Stage lights are hot. You might spill on yourself. You need to pick a color and texture of fabric, a weight of fabric that's not going to show those things really, really loudly. Avoiding silk is one of the best tips for a situation like this, for a panel discussion like this. Another thing she overlooked was the wrinkles that will form, particularly in these types of fabrics. They're much, much more prone to wrinkles than other types of fabrics. When you're going to be sitting for a while doing a discussion, you're probably going to take pictures after. Don't wear something prone to so many wrinkles. It's just an example of yet another logistic downside to throwing together these amateur, non-royal trips. Trying to figure this out all by themselves is clearly not working out very well. The royal family have people to think about these things for them, help organize them, to make sure that they're dressed in something that they will be comfortable in, etc. And Harry and Meghan just are not there yet. They're not on that level. They don't have it together enough to be able to accomplish these things and have true success with them. Leave it in the comments what you think. Thank you so much for joining me for today's update. Be sure you're subscribed so you do not miss upcoming videos. Have a happy day, everybody. Bye.